Hey, the doctor is in. Hey, Mo.
Good evening. How are you? Hey, the doctor is in. We're excited to join everybody today. We have an exciting and amazing and timely show to talk about today. Because, Ricky, guess what? Everybody's got vaccine fever. Wait, no, that's the wrong word. Vaccine mania, right? Everybody's
Vaccine mania, right? We hope that we don't have vaccine fever, right?
Well, some people might get a little vaccine fever. We should talk about why that is. And we have an expert here today to do just that. Dr. Sarah Horton, welcome. Welcome to the Doctor is In.
Thank you. I love being here. I am ready for, talking about COVID.
I know. We got to talk about the exam. I mean, if I could get it today, I would. I told you guys that, right? But we have Dr. Sarah. We're hoping that Dr. Lloyd Wilson joins us in a minute. We're hoping she'll join us. But we also have my Breastie, Stephanie Walker.
Hey, everyone. Glad to be here.
So glad you're here. I got to twist her arm a little bit to get on because but she always comes through for me. I love you dearly.
Well, thank you.
Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I actually have metastatic breast cancer. I was diagnosed de novo back July 9th, to be exact, at 3:24 p.m. I received that call, hot dog. But anyway, I have been, I took the standard of care, AC and Taxol, only 9 of 12 doses because I started having neuropathy really bad, arms and legs from the Taxol, and was having a lot of increased falls. So as a hospice nurse, I chose quality over quantity. So my oncologist agreed and we stopped them and had a month off, rescanned, and actually no evidence of active disease on March 4th or 5th of 2016. Was placed on fulvestrant and Xgeva in April of 2016. Rocked that all the way through February of 2018, where I was diagnosed with a blood clot in my lung. I just thought I was fat and couldn't breathe. So I had a blood clot. Then 2 months later, had a TIA, was taken off Xgeva due to I broke a tooth, eating corn on the cob. So the only medicine I remain on now is just actually fulvestrant every 28 days. And all my scans have been stretched out now to every 6 months. So I get scanned next month and no evidence of active disease. Even though I lost my career, I can't work anymore now. It was hard. That was the hardest part of the whole cancer thing, as opposed to even being diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. So here I am, advocating for those women in rural America where I live now. Didn't start there, but where I live now. So I'm trying to make a difference, one person at a time.
Wow. Incredible.
She's doing a lot of work for the Metastatic Breast Cancer Alliance and a great outspoken advocate. And
I try, and working on a new project. So I'm really excited about a lot of things. And today I plan on getting educated on COVID because I'm one of those sisters that right now I'm on the fence. I want to take it, but I don't want to take it. I'm scared of it, but I'm not scared of it. So I'm hoping and praying tonight I will get some very educated information so I can make a great choice.
Thank you for being vulnerable and for sharing that. Dr. Horton, would you tell us more about yourself and your story and your journey? You're on mute.
You're on mute. You're on mute, babe.
Always forget to unmute myself. Sorry about that. So thank you again. This is my second time being here. I'm Dr. Sarah Linnell Horton. I'm a medical oncologist, hematologist, but most of the practice I do is with breast cancer. I've been practicing since 1999 is when I finished my fellowship. So about 20 years. The majority of my career had been at Howard University's Cancer Center, where I still work part-time as associate professor in their breast cancer clinic. I've worked at the FDA after that, approving drugs in the breast cancer division. I was in private practice for about 7 years in Annapolis, DC area. So I've done a little bit of everything. But it's one of the things I stay busy with is health literacy and advocacy for all of our patients, and do a lot with breast cancer patients. So whenever I have the opportunity to talk about what's going on with therapies, and now especially COVID and the vaccine, especially having participated in a lot of clinical trials in the past, and cancer trials, and in understanding the reluctance of some people, especially our people of color, because of our history, in trusting the whole process of clinical trials, and now beyond the clinical trials, a new vaccine. So.
Uh-oh, you went back on mute.
We are glad to have you back, Dr. Horton, and thank you so much for joining us again here tonight, because this is a really important topic that everybody has questions about, but especially people in unique populations like a cancer patient. So Stephanie, I want to pose the first question to you, and this is not to put you on the spot in any way, but for you, and I think for Ricky, because you represent people who could be watching who don't work in healthcare, right? Even though you have some health literacy. What is your understanding of how the coronavirus vaccine works? Let's start there. What do you understand about it? Explain it to somebody.
That is something that I'm getting information from many sources that say different things that I probably should understand, but I don't. One thing I've heard, and whether it's true or not, is that it is not a live vaccine, that it is given, it's almost like building up an immunity, such as the flu vaccine or something like that. It's not a live thing. So you take it, Pfizer's has 2 steps. So you take the first one, and then you wait 4 weeks or so, and then you get the second one. Your body would react to it by building up the immunity. So you may run a fever, which is a normal thing if you're building up an immunity to something. And that's where I close the book, because that's all I know. And I'm being honest.
No, that's
I'm right there with you, girlfriend. So all I know, and when you're a nurse, so you know more than me, but all I know is that it's not putting live stuff into your body like the flu vaccine. That's what made me feel better about it a little bit. And frankly, when I first I was actually invited to be in a trial. I was scared to death of it. I wanted no part of it. And now I'm on the other side of that. I can't wait to get it. But I just know that the Moderna one does something with RNA or DNA or something like that, but it's all way over my science head. So I just, it gave me a little more confidence when I found that they weren't going to shoot COVID into my body. So help us get it.
Dr. Horton, I'm gonna let you take it away first. You wanna jump in? It's like double dutch.
All right, I'll just start off with some information about the vaccine. And like you said, Stephanie, you're absolutely right. It's not a live vaccine. And so some vaccines are made with a live actual virus or the organism that you're trying to protect yourself from. They take a little piece that's live, but it's not active enough to cause you to be sick. And they encase it in a capsulated way for you to receive it. And then they give that to you, and your body sees that little piece of live, what we call pathogen, and mounts a response. And people are always concerned that if you're giving a little bit of the live virus, that it potentially could cause illness. So now this vaccine is not made from a live part of the COVID virus. It's actually messenger RNA, which is part of our genetic code. I know it gets real complicated, but simply whenever your body makes a protein or makes anything, it reads a code off of your DNA, and that is from your message that can be carried. Your messenger RNA goes to the DNA and reads that information. And so the same thing that's on the DNA is also on the RNA. So the RNA is not live, and it's able to be put in a way, encapsulated in a way, and transmitted to us through an injection, so that our body sees that information that's encoded in the mRNA to say, okay, this is what the spike of the COVID looks like. All right. And so this is what your body needs to mount an immune response to. And so our body has this way of having memory. So if it's exposed to something once, it can mount a response, but if it's exposed to it twice, it can really mount a good immune response. And that's kind of the reasoning behind why we get the booster vaccine with the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine. It's the first time you get your injection, your body sees that, the spike mRNA, DNA, and it mounts a response by developing immunoglobulins or antibodies. And then the second time you get the vaccine, it's like, oh, I've seen this already. Now I'm really going to mount a response. So you'll hear people say that they got the first vaccine and it was okay. You know, they may not have any symptoms at all. Some people have some soreness and fever. Most people will have more symptoms with the second vaccine. And that's because of this more robust response that you get the second time. And so we try to prepare people for that.
Yeah, that's a great response. And I want to also sort of piggyback on that. And I want to say that these vaccines, the coronavirus vaccines from Pfizer, from Moderna, do not enter the nucleus where the DNA gets modified, because we're seeing and hearing some things about your DNA gets modified, or it's going to genetically alter you as a person. And that's not where that activity happens inside the cell. So the way I explain it to a patient, I was on a webinar last week. I said, it's like a pattern. It's like getting the pattern to make something for people who sew, right? So you get the pattern and then you sew that pattern. You make it, you cut the cloth, you make the pattern, you sew it. I think I use the example of a Gordon Gartrell shirt from Cosby Show, right? So you make the shirt and then your body recognizes when you see that yellow with the silk and the purple sleeve, oh, that's a Gordon Gartrell shirt, you know? And so your body now recognizes, because you've made it, you made that pattern, you reproduced it, that this is something, if we see it again, we're going to get rid of it. And so the first injection gives you that pattern so that your body can say, okay, this is what this is. All right, this is the spike. This is what it does to us. And now if you see it again, mount a response. So you get about 51% immunity from the first injection, which is why you have to get the second one. The second one gives you the rest of that immunity, that 95% immunity. And so I think that that's a really important thing to clarify for people, that it is not going to genetically alter your DNA. Yeah.
So it's kind of like a shield inside of your body.
Like a booster. It actually boosts your immune system. It enhances.
Boosts your immune system. Okay, so when your immune system sees COVID coming, it's like, no, not coming in here, right?
I mean, your immune cells are like your army, your protection.
Right.
Your soldiers.
Puts up the army and the soldiers come out and say, you're not coming here. Oh, Dr. Lori's coming. You're not coming in here, bucko. Not in this body. Right?
Exactly.
Dr. Lori.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I had patients today. Oh, it's been a day.
Okay, you were saving lives. You're saving lives.
Yes.
Right.
How are you, honey?
How are you all doing?
Good.
Good.
We had a great explanation of the vaccine. So introduce yourself, Dr. Lori. Everybody.
Thank you. So I am Dr. Lori Wilson. I am a associate professor of surgery at Howard University Hospital and College of Medicine. I'm division chief of surgical oncology or cancer surgery, and I am the director of our free Mammo Day, Rosemary Williams Mammo Day in Washington, D.C.
Cool. Glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Are you seeing a lot of confusion, I guess, Doc, and a lot of questions about the COVID vaccines and whether or not people should take it?
That's a great question. I actually have been bringing it up with every check-in. So I've decided that with every patient I see, I'm doing a sort of a health and wellness check-in. So what we start with is with how they're feeling about what's going on in the world. And then we work our way down to what they're thinking about vaccine-wise. I've tried to be impartial about the vaccine and just talk about it from my perspective of what we know about it so far, what the statistics are, if you do it, if you don't, how we are impacted more gravely when we catch it. And if we can prevent it, then the greater good is that what we've seen so far in most of the side effects really shrink in comparison to what happens if you get COVID at the worst. And so I have seen a lot of patients. We've talked about it a lot, and it's probably split. I think that people are very on the thoughtful side. Everybody sort of seems to want to wait to see what the feelings of those who take it, how are they doing? And there's definitely some conspiracy theories about the vaccine and does it work in us, in Black people? Should we do it, especially after what the world has shown us in the last several weeks? Could there be something about the vaccine that was not intent? The intent isn't an intent for our wellness. And so we've been having that conversation over the last several weeks. And honestly, I didn't step in the first week and sign up for mine. You all know I'm on a clinical trial, so I did get my permission, and I wanted to hear kind of how people were doing. And then I got my first shot last week. So I am on my on the downside of that. I had the achiness, the sore arm, but other than that, nothing. Waiting for the end of the month to do my second shot, and that's the shot that, of course, we're most concerned about.
And may I ask, did you get Pfizer or Moderna?
Pfizer is what's happening in our hospital. Mm-hmm. We're a hub at Howard, and so all of the workforce, as well as all the medical students, were guaranteed a vaccination if they were interested. It's not mandatory. It is only voluntary. And what we have found is that most people, when we first started, our workforce were about 20% were interested. And now I believe it's somewhere about 80% are interested in doing the vaccine.
Wow. So education works, huh?
Was that the case in most hospitals, that the doctors are given a choice whether you want to take it or not? Because I actually heard a story today from one of our Breasties in Florida, and she actually took it yesterday. She's metastatic, and she was saying that they have a surplus of vaccines in Florida because 40% of the medical professionals don't want to take it. So what's up with that?
Well, I think that I'll give you my impression is that there are skeptics. Sometimes you have to really prove that something is safe. This came about very quickly. And so the safety for those that are questioning and are a bit skeptic and sort of just who they are in their makeup, sometimes just want to wait and see.
Dr. Laura, I'm scared to death of that. I don't know, because you were saying, that it hasn't been on the clinical trials. Yes, it came quickly and everything like that, but they did not have a chance to enroll metastatic breast cancer patients that are on treatment plans and stuff. That's where I'm scared, and Ricky we and I talked about it, I'm on the fence. Do I take a chance and being stable? Do I take a chance and get this and get sick and I'm not stable anymore? Or is this going to do something to where I'm not stable anymore? Or do I not take it and take a risk on getting COVID and keeling over from COVID instead of metastatic breast cancer? I don't know. I don't know.
You know,
And honestly, you know, I was in the same boat with you. For me, I'm metastatic, and so the question was, you know, what will happen? But I've been 9 months without seeing my family. I've been 9 months without being with my friends, and at least this will give me the ability to come together and with some comfort, if we all are tested and we all have done COVID, that I can get together with my family again. I miss my family. I miss my friends.
I miss mine. Yeah, I understand.
You know, I like Sarah. I don't think Sarah and I have really been able to share a hug in, gosh, almost a year. And you know, we're just very.
I know we're huggers.
Exactly.
I know. Too. Yeah, you're right.
Yes, we've done all of these things together, and I absolutely appreciate that. And I.
Also, you guys are at risk. You guys are at risk working in the hospital too. Like, yeah. I mean, you know,
and realizing you're absolutely right. There weren't a lot of metastatic patients, and then do we know if this will in some way impact that? We haven't seen that in any of the data that's come out early. We'll have to wait for the data because when you get your vaccine, then they will keep that data and sort of correlate that data to see if there was any changes in those patients, because people want to hear that. They want to hear about pregnant patients. They want to, so there are definitely groups that are on the fence. My worry, though, is with the more contagious variant now being found in Maryland, that's scary for me because catching COVID is a scary place for me.
And I think that's a really important point, Dr. Lori, because the statistics right now are showing that cancer patients are twice as likely to have a really severe adverse hospitalizations, mortality from the coronavirus compared with the general population. So that tips into the conversation when I talk to patients about it. We talk about, one, what therapy, what treatment are you on? And is the treatment you're on immunosuppressive? And Dr. Horton, I'm going to ask you to chime in and talk a little bit about some of the agents that might be, and maybe some that are not. So like estrogen blockers, for example, are those things suppressing the immune system sufficiently to worry about the effects of a vaccine, flu vaccine, shingles, COVID vaccines? But looking at your risk versus your benefit, I did mine on Saturday. I did the Pfizer one because I want to see my family. My sister lives in Hawaii. I haven't seen her in over a year. I want to travel again. I want to hug patients, and I had no adverse side effects. I was actually, funny story. I ordered a pizza later that night, a pizza and wings. I hadn't had a pizza in a long time. I said, I'm going to get a veggie pizza. I got a taste for some junk. I ordered this veggie pizza, and I will not say from where. And I ate a slice of it, and I said, I can't taste it. It just tastes so bland. I don't taste the pizza. Oh dear God, what if I'm clutching the pearls? What if I got the coronavirus? And so I lit some scented candles, and I could smell the candles. I lit some incense. I could smell it. Taste the wings. It was just a really nasty pizza. That was the real side effect of my vaccine. My arm wasn't even sore. I was waiting for the arm like after the flu shot, and I get my second one at the end of the month and I'll report back. But it wasn't from the coronavirus. It was just nasty pizza. So
don't get that pizza. Right?
Love it.
I know, but every little thing makes you afraid because but I mean,
and we should talk about this too. There's an article that came out that a doctor got the vaccine and then got sick and so forth, and the timing of it. And I'm going to let Dr. Horton chime in, one on immunosuppression and what that really means, what drugs do it, what treatments do it, and which ones don't. But then the second part, why might people get the first vaccine and still get the coronavirus? And we can all talk about that because there's a lot of questions in the chat about it.
Yeah, people are asking also, why is the second one harder? So we should answer that as well. Yeah.
Okay. In terms of drugs and immunosuppression, specifically for breast cancer, hormonal therapy that you were just referring to, which is usually treatment for breast cancer patients who have estrogen or progesterone positive breast cancer. It's usually a pill. Sometimes it's an injection, like you're on Stephanie, the fulvestrant. The hormone therapies tend not to be immunosuppressive, meaning that they don't tend to suppress your infection fighting cells, like your white blood cells or your lymphocytes. And so they're felt to be, so the people who are just on hormonal therapy are felt to not be at more risk for infections and should not be, I shouldn't say not be as concerned, but from that standpoint, not be as concerned about your immuno, your ability to fight off infections and also your ability to mount a response to the vaccine. That's one of the big concerns about the doctors have in terms of patients who are immunocompromised. If you don't have enough of the, for a better term, fighting infections, you know, when the vaccine is given, are you actually protected from COVID? And that's one of the things that I think one of the main recommendations is to talk to your doctor about the treatment that you're on. Most of the time, the IV chemotherapies that are given, or the kind of your traditional chemotherapies, as well as a lot of the new immunotherapies, which are given IV most of the time, some of them orally, they can suppress your immune system. And you know, your doctor may have talked to you about becoming neutropenic or your white blood cells dropping down, and times when you're on treatment, when you're more at risk for infection or fever. Those are the scenarios where we're a little bit more concerned about a patient being immunocompromised and one being able to mount a response to actually with the vaccine from COVID, as well as you know, being at risk for COVID. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You know, when you're immunosuppressed, you're more at risk of not being able to fight COVID if you are infected by it. But then in terms of the vaccine, it's not a concern about the vaccine making you sick because you're immunocompromised. It's a concern that you're not able to mount a response that's adequate to protect you. And so looking at that, one of the things we always recommend, as I said, is to have a really good conversation with your treating physician who knows you, who knows the treatments that you're on. And when you look at the death and the morbidity that COVID is causing, and the fact that patients who have cancer do have a worse outcome. I mean, it's higher death, more severe hospitalizations if they're hospitalized. So when you look at that, you have to make a decision whether the risk from COVID vaccine, which as far as we know, is mainly, you know, you're not being able to mount a response to protect yourself, as opposed to what's going on right now in terms of what happens when you actually are diagnosed with COVID. The NCI has a repository now where they're trying to follow oncology patients. Sorry, that's my dog. To see if there is any effects from the, yeah, it's an Akita, a big dog.
It sounds like a horse.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, they're following to see, right, as we go along, is there going to be some effects in terms of your response to your treatment and things like that? It's not expected to. There's no evidence that the COVID vaccine is going to impact your treatment. So in my eyes, there's a lot weighing on the side of benefits from the vaccination. But if you are on treatment, you really do need to kind of talk to your doc and know where you are.
Absolutely. I think that's a great answer. Now, why are people able to get the coronavirus after the first injection? And then the second question is, why are people experiencing, such significant side effects. And I think you kind of mentioned it already, but I really want to bring it home again, because we're starting to see more and more of the doctors that we know and follow on social media having some side effects after that second one. And that's making people say, see, that's why I don't want it, because of the side effects. But, let's talk about it just a little bit more in detail. Anyone?
I can just very quickly just kind of piggyback on what I said before, so that we know, and I'm glad we're talking about it, because it was not talked about initially, but our expectations are that that second vaccine is going to make you feel worse. As Lori said, the first vaccine, or maybe that was you, Dr. Bo, is 51% protective. So it does rev up your immune system, and your body responds to when your immune system is being revved up, in terms of feeling some aches and pains, with any kind of vaccine, including the flu vaccine, but some people feel it more than others. We know, though, with this vaccine, when you get the second one, when you are re-stimulating your immune system and and the expectation is a robust response, you are going to have more symptoms, things like fever, which you may not have had before. And people talk about sore muscles or myalgias, or just that overall kind of flu-like feeling. So yeah, I think that I'm expecting it. I'm preparing myself for it. I know I was on call last weekend, and the resident who I was supposed to round with, called in. He's like, I can't come in. I had my second shot. I have a fever of 101, and I feel bad. And I'm like, stay home. So.
So when you're at that point, though, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but when you are getting that second injection and you have that kind of robust response, and you have the symptoms of a fever and muscle aches, and so do you just take the stuff over the counter to combat your fever, or Tylenol, ibuprofen, then the muscle aches, rest, whatever?
Yes.
Do those escalate, or what's the probability of those escalating to something to where I would have to end up seeking medical care?
Most cases are self-limited, and from what I've heard, right, over 24, 48 hours, treating it, like you said, like the flu, over-the-counter anti-inflammatories, rest, fluid, just, make sure you let your body heal. And if it gets worse instead of better, that's not expected, and it would be a reason, to contact your doctor or, a healthcare person, because it shouldn't last more than a day or two.
And I think one of the wonderful things that when I was reading and sort of preparing myself for my vaccine, I came across an article that said, think about this as being proactive. Put together your vaccine packet, which includes a soft, fluffy blanket, or a fan for you, or Gatorade on the side, or warm washcloths that can be used as compresses, and just put it all together, sort of really kind of doing it as a preemptive, realizing that this is going to be it. You're getting all the things together that make you feel better when you're not feeling well, and to sort of prepare in that way so that you have everything in place, and looking forward not to being ill, but being prepared.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can do to prepare your body for it? Like drink a lot of water, or like get more sleep, or something like, kind of make sure your body's in a good place before you get it? Does that help at all? Or
I think those are all really good things to do. Like I had a headache before mine, the morning I woke up on Saturday, I had a headache. I hydrated, I ate breakfast. I took some Tylenol for my headache because I didn't want to get the vaccine and then attribute my headache to the vaccine. I said, let me just make sure I feel better going in. And that's a really important thing that people can do. If you don't feel well, you should not get any vaccine, flu, shingles, anything. And so, yeah, hydrate, rest well, eat breakfast, make sure that you feel well before you get it.
And make sure you have all those things. You have soup in place. You have, those things, juice, you water, Gatorade, whatever you use to stay hydrated. And just know that you're going to have to pamper yourself for, the next 48 hours to get through this, and that it's what's expected. Because when we have, side effects from these things, it's what we expect when we, like, I love when Sarah says it's a robust response. That's what we want. We want a robust response. We want our body to actually tell us that it's working. This, what we got, is actually working in us. And even though you may not have as much, it's never quantified. If you don't have as many symptoms, it doesn't equal not having a response. But it's never a bad thing to have the normal response, the normal aches, the normal feelings that go along with the second vaccine, because you know that you're supposed to get more of a response. It's supposed to take you from 30 to 95 or wherever you're going from. The first shot, it's supposed to close the gap. And that's going to be a much bigger jump than what you got to begin with.
Sounds like we're getting over chemo. Sounds like the same kinds of things you do. But so
Which is why if you're under active treatment, it's why you also need to be really careful, because you don't want to confuse those symptoms too.
Right.
Yeah.
Talking to your doctor about that's really important.
Yeah. So I have a question. So to me, there's risk all around. Okay. So every time we leave our house, we're at risk for COVID. And I've had some friends who get COVID who don't leave their house, like the delivery man gave it to them or something. So the risk for COVID is just crazy. And it seems like it's just getting worse, right? More people are dying every day. So you have this unknown happening. So there's a risk out there. And guess what? We don't know what's going to happen to us if we get it. Like, we're at higher risk if we get it, we can have worse outcomes. And then on the other side, you have this vaccine that we don't really know what's going on with that either. So it's almost like, which side of the fence do you have more confidence on? So personally, I'm kind of weighing on the side of the fence with the vaccine, just because I think I'm more afraid of COVID now than I was even 3 months ago, because so many people have gotten it and bad things have happened.
Yeah.
I keep seeing it, the numbers go up on the news. So I think that's sort of putting me over the fence to get it, but still, it's like, which risk do you take? Like, here you go.
At least in our area, there are beds available and there are opportunities. I think that there are places in the country where they're dipping below 5% of ICU beds, that the staff that's taking care of some of the patients aren't typical ICU staff, that don't have typical ICU training. I would be a bit more probably vigilant about trying to prepare myself and not have to be in that situation. Never want to catch it, but at least you want to be in an area of the country that can actually take care of you, actually has enough beds, has enough personnel, has enough ICU intensivists, have the ability to, if you need an ICU bed, you need oxygen, that it's available to you. And so I am pro-vaccine, just because I am so deathly afraid of catching COVID, and I'm even more afraid with the new variant. However, if we do have to have, if we go through a situation with COVID, you want to make sure that the hospital that's near you, the hospital that you decide to go, is prepared for you, has ICU beds, has intensivists, has the ability to have these high caliber studies that might be necessary for you, or really specifically trained clinicians to take care of you. Even with all of the knowledge that we have, you want to be in a situation that puts you at the best possible outcome for your.
I don't want any of that stuff. I don't want any of that.
Exactly. What about,
So at this time, let me
proactive, what about
Mhm.
vitamin D? Everybody's been talking about, how can I rev up my immune system prior to, I'll be in the midst of all this. And we all do this in the wintertime anyway. You take enough vitamin C, your body uses what it needs, and then you pee the rest of it off. We all have vitamin-rich CP. But anyway, what about vitamin D3? I hear a lot about, if you take vitamin D3, African-American / Black men and women are notoriously low levels of vitamin D3 when checked. And I'm one that has one that I think it was 14 the last time. But what do we do? Does that help?
I would answer that it's one facet of boosting your immunity. And I think if you're looking for ways to do it, you shouldn't discount
Okay,
it.
thank you. See you.
It's part of it.
Bye-bye.
You know, I think it's a comprehensive sort of approach to what is going to boost your immune system. But I think vitamin D supplementation can be helpful. I think we have to be really careful not to overdose on vitamin D also, because we are starting to see people who are taking really exquisitely high doses and having side effects of too much vitamin D. But I think if you're looking for ways to be preventive and proactive, I think, you know, the vaccine can be a part of that plan for you. And I want to go back though, and I want to talk a little bit more about this technology, because people keep thinking that this is new, this is new. mRNA vaccine technology is not new. This is like the person who won the Grammy, but they were a songwriter and a backup singer beforehand, right? There's all this background work that's gone into developing this technology. And so just because this is the first time that this has been employed on this large scale, doesn't mean that the technology was developed overnight. And I think when you look at some of the interviews of the scientists who developed it, in particular, Dr. Kizzmekia Corbett, the Black woman who was involved in the development of this, she said, we were able to do this so fast because we've been working on this technology for years. And it was finally the right place, you know, preparation meets opportunity, that we were able to crank it out so fast. And then we got funding from, you know, industry and so forth. So it's kind of a perfect storm of things, but it's not that this technology was just developed overnight and we're kind of throwing it to the wall to see if it sticks. We've used this when we've looked at cytomegaloviruses and other coronaviruses and the Zika virus and Ebola. This technology has been around and it's been tested in people. And so it's important to know that this isn't just, you know, the new kid on the block here also.
And
They're
I think
telling us that people need to know that. I mean, I think that's an important factor that's not in the media right now. I mean, you know, it's, you hear it, but that's a big deal to talk about.
Sarah, you have a significant amount of experience reviewing studies and things of this nature. What were your thoughts about the I guess the way that they came from start to finish?
Right. So I will tell you that in the very beginning, when we started rolling out these vaccines and things were moving so quickly, it wasn't so much that it was moving quickly, it was the people who were in charge. And I have to admit, because of the administration, because of the people who were appointed by the administration to be the head of some of the places like FDA, in the back of my mind, even having worked at FDA, I thought, you know, I'm going to maybe wait to the second phase, you know, to see how things are going, just because there was a little concern. And that was during the summer, I think, when things were starting to get better and there wasn't, you know, there wasn't the second wave and this huge, you know, mortality from the virus. And so then I started thinking about the way this was put together. This is a global pandemic. There were so many different scientists and regulatory bodies and hands involved in the development. It gave me comfort to know that knowing the whole institution of pharmaceutical and the development of drugs, and how many people are invested in it and who are honest, and, you know, and our history of putting out good drugs made me more comfortable thinking about that the vaccine is being vetted in a rigorous way, that people are really looking at the safety of this, which was the most important thing. To me, you know, efficacy is right below there, but what I was concerned about with the rapidity of this was that, you know, that safety wasn't covered as closely as it has. And then I started thinking about the people that I knew in FDA who were on the front lines of reviewing this information. And, you know, even if the head of the, you know, the body is someone who you may not agree with, I knew that the people who were sitting down there in the offices were people who had been there for years, who had so much experience and were so smart and had so much integrity. They would not let, you know, something go through that wasn't appropriate and ready to be released. And just when I kind of sat back and thought about that, I said, you know what? I don't know why I would not take this vaccine, other than the fact that this is a new virus and there's just that unknown. So there wasn't a concern for me about the regulatory process of getting the vaccine out. Most of the concern is just, what we don't know is that the vaccine can do.
So what if you've had COVID? Should you get the vaccine?
I'll jump
I
in here.
think you should. And they are recommended because it's not clear how long, right?
Sorry, go ahead, Doc.
I was just going to say, it's not clear that natural immunity is going to be as strong or last as long as immunity from the vaccine. But go right ahead.
Exactly right. I actually just talked about this on the radio today. Our latest article out of New England Journal came out of the UK. They looked at over 12,500 healthcare workers and they're tracking them. So some of them had the coronavirus and they're watching to see what happened to them after they got their vaccines. They're looking to see how long their immunity lasted. And so we know that the immunity from having had COVID can approach 90%, they think. So it is less likely that you would get reinfected. To somebody's question in the chat, less likely you'd get reinfected, but less likely you'd have a really severe infection requiring hospitalization. But the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines are going to provide about 95% immunity. So you get a greater immunity from the vaccine. And they're expecting it to last so far about 6 to 8 months, though. So we don't know yet because we haven't had it around long enough to know if it'll last a year, 2 years, 5 years. But at least a good 6 to 8 months, both natural immunity if you've had the coronavirus, but enhanced immunity if you had the virus and got the vaccine. Tricky part, though, is the timing of that, because I think there are still people who can be pre-symptomatic who have COVID. They get the vaccine, they then become symptomatic from the coronavirus and attribute that to the vaccine itself. And we've seen a couple articles of, I think one doctor in particular, who there just isn't enough evidence in this article out of Florida where that doctor got his vaccine, and he says a perfectly healthy doctor, he got the vaccine, 2 weeks later, he died of a platelet dysfunction, and basically his spleen sequestered all the platelets, and he was just about to get his spleen removed and he had a stroke. And they're saying that the vaccine could have contributed to this, but we don't know his COVID status. It's not mentioned in the article. It's mentioned that, that we don't even test all the healthcare workers. And so if you don't know your status, it is possible that you could be pre-symptomatic. You could have the virus and not know it. And then you get your vaccine and then develop symptoms that might not be attributable. So people have to be really careful, I think, with what you read right now in the media and look to the details and then just talk to your doctor about your specific circumstance, because, what you read could kind of scare you a bit, Stephanie?
I think also one of the things that is important to understand is that you could have the COVID vaccine and you could still give COVID to someone else. So we shouldn't throw off our masks. We shouldn't stop the social distancing. It is unlikely that you're in that 5%, but you could be in that 5%. You could still harbor the virus in your nostrils and your system and be a spreader from that standpoint. And so it's important to know that it's not quite, we're not quite there yet where we can all sort of say we can take everything off even if we have a vaccine, but we can feel safer. And we can feel that the outcomes of having COVID likely will be less likely. And then the expectations are that we will learn more as time goes on.
So that's a good point too, Dr. Lori. Talk to me about herd immunity. So can we explain that what that means for people? Like, how many people in the country have to get the vaccine to make it safe to take the mask off? And my question there is, what about all these Trumpers or people who don't wear masks now? Why are they going to take the vaccine? What's going to be their motive? If they don't believe that they need to wear a mask, then why are they going to get the shot?
And so I'm going to throw that to the hematologist, immunologist on our
Our expert,
and-
our, but okay, Dr. Sarah, help me.
Yes.
All right. So your question about herd immunity?
Yeah, yeah.
All
What does
right.
that even mean? Okay, like talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you. So herd immunity is the concept of just not trying to protect yourself from the virus, just making sure everybody gets it. And once they've got it, they've got their natural immunity, and then they don't have to worry about it anymore.
So that's why the people in Sweden died.
Right. See, we don't see, because that could be done, for instance, for chicken pox when you're little. And sometimes there were kids who didn't get, like 4 kids in a family, and one got it, and the mom said, well, I'm putting them all in a room, everybody gets chicken pox, and be done with it. And so I think that's what people were kind of thinking, that this is the same thing. You know, the problem is COVID isn't chicken pox.
They
and
died.
People
They died.
are
People-
not, you know,
a lot of people.
dying from chicken pox, right? So one, it's very, very risky. You know, we're starting to have an idea of people who may have a harder time with COVID, but there are people who you don't expect would have a hard time or die from COVID, and they do. And so that's one reason that herd immunity is a bad idea. And
It's
in
a
the other,
fail, right.
yeah, and then there was, right, the question of natural immunity. Yeah, the immunity that you get from having had the vaccine. How long does it last? It tends to be a little shorter than the enhanced immunity or the immunity from the vaccine. And so people might be kidding themselves or thinking that they're protected, and they're not. You know, again, we haven't had this vaccine around long enough to kind of know the answers to these questions, but you'd be taking I think.
So is this a vaccine that's going to be a one-time thing, or is this going to be like the flu vaccine that you have to get every year?
So we don't know that either yet. And I think, you know, we're seeing things in terms of the virus mutating already, which, like the flu vaccine, that's one of the reasons why we got a new flu vaccine. Luckily, the mutations apparently in the corona spike have not been mutations that the current vaccines don't cover. So the vaccine is protective against these new mutated ones so far, they believe, but these mutated ones are just much, much more contagious. They spread, they stick harder, and they spread more easily.
It's a great question, Stephanie, and I think that I would piggyback on what Dr. Horton said, is that, you know, viruses mutate. It's what they do. And so every time there's a new strain, it makes this news in its headlines, but it's not really news, because this is what they do. Viruses have been around since before people, before civilization. And so it's not unreasonable to think that a virus isn't going to try to change and adapt in order to survive and to continue to replicate. So the thing about the coronavirus is that it attaches with the spikes, right? And so by learning to recognize the spike, every time it uses that spike, theoretically, we should be able to recognize the spike and say, okay, attack it. There's some other technologies that have been coming out that are really interesting, coming out of San Francisco, UCSF, that look at ways to actually cut or cleave the spike through an inhaler, through a nasal spray, and it might through nanoparticle delivery, the same way we give insulin. Actually, they're looking at trying to deliver a particle that will enable us to cut the spikes off the coronavirus, so that even if you are infected, you might be able to just cut off the spike so they can't attach. And it might be a more long-term sort of sustainable solution to help the vaccine even. So there's a lot of interesting things on the horizon, I think, but understanding that the vaccine is safe, that it does work, that it doesn't suppress your immune system, but it enhances your immune system.
And that it works in Black people.
And that it works in Black people. It's true. When you look at the clinical trials, the Pfizer trial had about 10% Blacks and I want to say 15% Hispanic, I think. Moderna had more than that even. And so there's
like 20 or 30% Black.
Yeah, 20%, I believe, the latest
That's
number.
unusual for
Highly unusual. You look at cancer clinical trials, what are we talking? 4%, 5%?
Oh, that's big.
3%,
Big.
3%.
2%, 1%, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Less than 5.
So,
and it's interesting because so many people were afraid, but yet they got in the trial, right? They did it. So help me understand how my Trumper question. So why are and even the doctors that in Florida where 40% of the medical people won't get the vaccine, and then people won't wear masks, why are they going to get the vaccine? Are they going to, I mean, do we have to have, will we be safer if more people get the vaccine, or does it even matter?
Yes.
If people get it.
It will be safer. I think, as people see it happening to their family members, it doesn't affect you until it affects somebody right? I live in Pennsylvania. Rural Pennsylvania did not get hit like the cities did, but now rural Pennsylvania is overrun with the coronavirus, right? The morgues are filling up and the funeral homes can't keep up, and everybody says, this is a travesty. I didn't realize this was this bad, and we are all more connected, I think, than we'd like to believe. What happens, we're a global community. What happens in China is going to happen here. What happens in Africa will eventually make its way here. What happens in the suburbs will get to the cities and vice versa. And so I think it's a matter of time, Ricky. And you'll still find some people who will refuse it. But by and large, if we can get closer to 70% of the population, that should be really, that should bode well for us.
I think that there may also be some mandates after we have better information about how people are taking the vaccine and what the outcomes are and how long they're lasting and what the overall I think outcomes for patients are. If we see that it has a major impact, I think that there's probably going to be some industries that make it mandatory. For my flu shot, it's mandatory for me to take my flu shot. I can't work if I don't take my flu shot. That, I need to get paid. I have a mortgage too, and I have kids, and so I take my flu shot every year. And so I think that we'll probably mandate in some of those industries that were hit hard, and those industries that likely are private and can mandate some of the things that we do health-wise.
Like getting on a plane, or I think like being a teacher. I think all teachers should get it. I think all medical professionals should get it. Like I think if I had a staff, I would make everybody get it before I let them come in my building. So I think there should be some mandates just to protect people, because now there's so many people that are just putting others at risk.
And I think that with what we're hearing from the new administration, that there will be mandates on the prevention aspect. And so I think that it probably won't be hard for businesses to then begin mandating the health aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Steph, how are you feeling, girl?
I was teetering on that fence when we started. I'm teetering still, but leaning more over on the side of getting it. But I'm going to be the first one to say that I want to travel again. I want to do things. I want to, when you finally get comfortable with having, if you ever get comfortable with having metastatic breast cancer, you want to see past your scan days.
Yeah,
and even
exactly.
COVID, I haven't been able to see past my COVID days, more or less a scan day. So I'm leaning more to it. I'm going to do some more reading, like Dr. Lori and Dr. Mo and Dr. Sarah said. So
well, here's a push.
I feel better. I mean, I really do feel better.
I think you got to ask yourself, for your unique situation, right? Have you had bad responses to vaccines in the past, right? Have you had anaphylaxis? Have you had a response to flu or other vaccines that has been worrisome, detrimental, hospitalized, that's caused you to have a medical issue? 2, are the therapies that you're on affecting your immune system, right? 3, are there people who have gotten the vaccine who have similar health situations to you, who are doing well, and how do they feel, how are they faring, etc. I think that you got to like tease apart what your fears are, kind of one by one, put them down, write them on paper, and do pros and cons. And then for the stuff you still got a question mark next to, then you get your answers, get your questions answered.
I think you are so right on target. It's so important to realize this is an individualized decision. This is not something that everyone should jump into at the same time. You need to be convinced that it is perfect for you where you are in your particular situation. And I love the fact that Dr. Mo talked about looking at people in your similar situation and not just, just saying, well, it just seems odd, it just seems weird. I'm not sure that there's enough evidence, really drilling down to what is important for you. What are the things that make you fearful? And if you can work through those things, oftentimes you can get it to a decision that is the healthiest for you at this moment.
Yeah.
And I'll say just one thing, Stephanie. One of the best things about now is that information is coming out and is being relayed in a way that it's understandable. So like there was a series on blackdoctor.org's the Plain Talk.
Yeah.
And that's the one that had Fauci and
Fauci and yeah, all the medical schools are there. That's a great, they've been like a series of them. They've been awesome. Everybody should watch those. There's
keep your eye out for those. Yeah, because that kind of they're up to date and keep you on top of it.
They have the woman that worked at NIH under Fauci, the Black woman that actually worked the vaccine. She's been on all of them, I think, and it's real. They're really.
She is no joke.
Yeah.
She is able to talk about it in a way that people understand. So yeah.
Yeah, we had a question in the chat about what, Monique, would you just put a question in the chat about
whether you could transmit the virus after having the vaccine.
Yeah.
And what the evidence is beginning to show is that is a possibility.
Right.
That the way that the vaccine, the virus is able to hang on in the mucus and the membranes may allow you to spread that from yourself to someone else.
So if you've taken the vaccine, you won't get impacted by it. Your immune system will fight it off, but it could still be in your system and you could breathe it onto somebody else.
Right.
And that's why we're not, we still
now, right? You can be an asymptomatic carrier of it, right? So you don't get sick from it, but you can be a carrier and transmit.
And that's
you didn't get it from the vaccine. That's the issue. I think people are saying, oh, so you get the vaccine and now you can transmit COVID to your family. No. You didn't get it from the vaccine. You either got it before your vaccine or after your vaccine. You just never got sick from it.
So you're basically like an asymptomatic person. You could be.
Right.
Which really, that's why you got to wear a mask. That's why
that's an important point of clarification. Yeah.
Right.
That's important because you still have to wear a mask. It's not going to go away. But
and that's why you can't throw your mask away and dance, together, get together and part. You still have to, be vigilant. I think, when I talked about getting together with family, that's with precaution, that with everybody being COVID testing, thank goodness, is so easily done. And there's so many grants out there for you to get free COVID testing. In my area of the country, you can go to CVS, and if you don't have health insurance, they have a grant that will pay for your COVID testing. And it's a PCR, the best type of COVID testing as well. And
say that again, Dr. Lori, because there's a question about what type of testing is the best.
So there's rapid testing and PCR testing, and the PCR test is actually more detailed and looks at more of the virus as opposed to the rapid test. And so if you have an option, if you can get both, I've done both. I've done the drive-in at one place and done just the rapid, and I then went to a place and did the PCR. All free drive-through opportunities. Yes, I'm a little bit, and we get tested here at Howard every 2 weeks for free. But for me, it's important that I am not someone who transmits to my patients something that could, especially my patient population, are immunosuppressed, many. I don't want to be involved in that chain at all. So I'm a little overboard in the way that I've gone about testing. But in the community, there definitely, if you even just put in your Google search, COVID testing near me, the state will come up with COVID testing, the types of that are available, either PCR or rapid testing. And then they'll also tell you where they can be done and who does it for free. And I love the bargain, so I'm always happy to get it done for free if I can. I drive through that ours was actually DMV stations that you could drive through and then get your studies and then get your reporting done within about 48 hours.
Yeah. I have a question from my breastie Julia. She asked me this before the show, and I told her I'd ask you guys. So right now, you know, the states are controlling who can get the vaccine, and every state's different, right? Like in DC, you can walk in the Giant, the grocery store, and get it, but anybody can. But and in Florida too, I think you can line up to get it. But we have any control over getting, like, if like Stephanie, who's metastatic, why can't she get it now? Like, why does she have to wait? Like, how is it decided who can get it when? And to me, like, having a pre-existing condition or being metastatic should give you some clout to get the vaccine, right?
Unfortunately, there wasn't a federal rollout that was regimented and really considered. So it got pushed down to the states and the counties often. And so every district kind of has their own way of doing it. And unfortunately, it just depends on how prepared they were, how, you know, they're putting those things in place. There's some places that, you know, it's not being given to those until the rollout recommendation. And then there are other places that say, we are going to try, if we have any excess, we're going to try to give it to the community. It just kind of depends on where you are.
Yeah, it's been tough. And I think that's been the way from the beginning, because the administration doesn't like, you know, central rule. They're letting the states do everything, and it's been a little haphazard. And they're starting to change now. You know, remember the second phase was supposed to be, I think, 75 and over. Well, now they're dropping it to 65 and over. And I think a lot of it had to do with their expectations on what was going to be available, the amount of drug. You know, originally, they were holding on to both of the injections per person. So if they had 1 million injections, that means 500,000 people could get injected. Right. So that now you hear talk about letting that go, right? Just give everybody, and then when it's time for your second injection, hopefully there'll be drug. And they think that they can because there's a lot of drug that's just sitting there now that manufacturers are thinking they're going to be able to keep up. But because it's so haphazard, right, it is difficult because there's no prioritization amongst things like oncology patients and older folks. And I just anecdotally, you know, my mom, she's 82 and my dad's 80, they're both 81. In Georgia, oops, mom, sorry. I'm telling your age. But anyway.
I would never know, right?
We've been having such difficulty getting them signed up for the vaccine. I mean, they opened up these slots and within, 5 minutes, they're gone. And I'm thinking, it's, it's for 65 and above. So I'm sure there are people who are a little healthier who may not need it as much as some older patients. So.
Yeah. But to your question though, Ricky and also Stephanie, there are recommendations from the CDC and from different bodies about who should get vaccinated first. Healthcare workers, frontline essential workers first. People with significant pre-existing conditions are coming second. So cancer patients are in the queue, but it was decided or recommended that those people who work in nursing homes and who are caring for people and who have high risk of transmissibility should get the vaccine first. I would caution patients, especially cancer patients, but really people in our community, especially who have the potential for anaphylactic and other types of vaccine reactions, or if you're concerned about it, to be really careful about going to drive-through places, walk-up places. You may want to try to get it at your local doctor's office, at a place where you can be monitored for 15 minutes. Because I got mine, they said, well, sit in the lobby for 15 minutes and just kind of be in this controlled setting. But if you're doing a drive-through, through a CVS or through a Giant client or something like that, you're not going to be monitored. And so if you have concerns, go someplace where you could be monitored after for at least
And
15
and
minutes.
I'm sorry, when I was talking about this drive-through, I was really talking about COVID testing,
But there
not
are plans to start doing walk up and drive through, and they eventually they're going to be drive through vaccine places, and so I think being really careful about where you go to get it and making sure that you're under some sort of surveillance is an important part of your safety plan, Stephanie. If you decide to do this, feel free to run it by us. What my plan is of safety. I got my pre-medication. I have my day of. Here's my in case stuff hits the fan. Here's where I'm going. These are my emergency plans. And maybe you'll feel a little bit better about it too.
Yeah. So Steph, I'm going to get the vaccine when I can, and I'll drive to your house and I'll go with you.
There you go.
Thanks.
Well, I'll tell you, that's what I did when I went. I grabbed my friend and colleague, and we went, and she's had reactions before. And like you said, so Stephanie, I was thinking about you too, for your comfort level. Like Dr. Mo said, you can stick around. They told us to stick around stick around for 15 minutes. We sat there for about 45 minutes. We're like, I'm not leaving till
Yeah.
So.
That's exactly
I'm not
what
leaving. I'm not
right.
finished.
I
Yeah.
think
Take somebody with me that knew my health plan and do I want to be intubated, not intubated? Can you two be yourself? Then you can be my friend and go with me. So I'll let y'all know. Okay.
Well, let me ask you this, Stephanie, as we get ready to come to a close here, do you at least feel more educated on the subject? Feel like you got more
very much so more educated from hearing everybody talk about it and actually to hear how the vaccine actually works. So yes, a lot more. Yeah.
Good job, docs. Good job.
I'm so glad that we had this because it's a conversation. It's an ongoing conversation.
You have to be comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. And whether your comfort comes after 5 conversations or after 15 conversations, we just want to get you there.
That's right.
And
it's okay to ask those questions, right, Doc? It's okay to ask questions.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm thankful and appreciative.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other people out there as well. So
I'm glad.
Yeah. And if you guys have questions, you know where to find us. And we're all here, and I'll go find these lovely docs if you need them, and reach out.
Thank you for having us on.
Yes, always lovely to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Lou's going to come back and do Pink Table Talk in the beginning of February. So we'll do another show, and we got great stuff to talk about. Next week, we're going to talk about breast cancer and divorce.
Very interesting. That's a topic that is little discussed, but definitely in our community, it's an issue.
It's an issue, yeah. And I get stuff like I lost 250 pounds because I put it on my house.
that's how much you weighed, huh?
But no, it should be interesting.
More to come on that. We thank our sponsors. We are just so appreciative for everybody who watched, who shared. If you found this interesting, it is not too late. This will replay. You can share it on your pages. You can send it to your friends. We hope that everybody who's got the same questions that you have would watch this and then share it and come back to us with even more questions, because this is how we learn. It's how we grow as a community. It's how we can advocate for ourselves and for our health. And so we encourage the dialogue. We hope that this has been relatable and reliable and real. It's what we set out to do every single Wednesday, right, Ricky?
Every Wednesday. So you reach out, touch BBCA, Dr. Monique Gary, and Dr. Lori. We'll put all the info in the chat. And thank you so much for watching and being with us. And I love you guys so much.
Love you guys. The doctor is in.
A hug, right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Breasty love. Breasty love.
Bye.
Breasty love. Love you guys. Thank you.